Exactly 936 days today, we declared that the Kenyan state had been captured. Captured by rich and powerful cartels, hell-bent on amassing and protecting their ill-gotten wealth.
Today, the cartels are even more emboldened, going bigger and getting better at infiltrating the system on an even grander scale, according to a report released today by the Africa Center for Open Governance. The economy is at risk as it bears building blocks sitting on the fleeting foundations of impunity.
These are indeed dangerous and depressing days for Kenya. We live in an era where doing the wrong thing is becoming more of the norm than the exception. More so if you belong to the untouchable class.
The class that now steals not in the millions but in the billions of shillings. A class which believes that the courts exist to serve its interests. A class so powerful that it even appears to defy the presidency.
Never before in the history of Kenya has impunity been so widespread. From the executive to the legislature and into the halls and corridors of judiciary, state capture is real. The very people that the government purports it is out to help are quickly converted into the footstools upon which the greedy and heartless step as they reach for the cookie jar.
Tonight, we comprehensively cover the state of capture in the cartel country and look at why it may take more than declarations to slay the dragon of corruption. But first, the highlights.
Tonight, is the war on corruption a cosmetic affair?
Because that's all you need to capture a state. Capture power, capture money, and capture intelligence.
The idea that we can reform, tinker an institution here and there to fix this problem, I think we accept it's over.
A government captured by cartels that toast to glasses of Mwananchi's sweat.
Also tonight, they pleaded not guilty, but now they've been identified as swindlers in the fake gold cartel.
Plus, he served in the military and got injured while on duty.
In 1995, I was retired on medical ground from Ministry, from Department of Defense.
32 years on, and compensation is tied up in high-level red tape.
And classrooms are mud-walled, insufficient and dilapidated.
Na mvua ikija, sasa tunawachanganya pamoja. Hasa inamaanisha madarasa mengine hakuna masomo yanaendelea.
The bleak picture of a Busia school.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai and Olive Burrows.
Tonight we kick off our bulletin with our special coverage of the cartel country.
Our sign language interpreter tonight is David Agundoa. The civil society has today poked holes at the ongoing war on corruption, which it says is a cosmetic exercise aimed at settling political scores.
AFRICOG, a civil society body, says in a report released today that Kenya has been captured by a few powerful individuals who have corrupted the system for personal gain. The report says that the public nature of prosecutions renders them a means to no end, only meant to play to the public gallery.
NTV's Silas Apollo reports on the findings that come as an indictment of the campaign that President Uhuru Kenyatta has championed as part of his legacy.
Renew our engagement.
In a report released in Nairobi today, the Africa Center for Open Governance, AFRICOG, now says that Kenya is experiencing state capture, a system where few individuals corruptly benefit from public resources at the expense of the larger population.
Okay, in terms of
institutions tasked with supervising and moderating these excesses have also been crippled, meaning that looters and the corrupt now live and prosper without the guilt of persecution. The report paints a grim picture of a country whose judiciary, parliament and independent institutions now serve at the mercy of the elite who are corrupt. The result of this is that the common man has been reduced to a beggar in his own country, now resorting to dancing to the tune of the mighty and powerful for his daily bread. This state of affairs, commonly known as state capture, has seen a small clique of the elite form a state parallel to the constitutional state, all with the aim of plundering public resources. AfriCog says that the corrupt elite have over time managed to sanitize their ill-gotten wealth and in the process also compromised institutions tasked with maintaining the moral fabric of the society. A case in point is the huge donation made to churches and other organizations, all in the name of charity, but which are a bait and a switch ploy.
And then the capture of the criminal justice system so that people can get away with it. So once you capture the public finance system, you capture the cow so that you're milking it, and then you make sure that you capture the cops so that you can continue milking the cow and nothing happens to you.
And while the report notes that the efforts by the government to fight corruption are worth celebrating, it is all but a cosmetic exercise aimed at fighting political wars and sanitizing the plunder by the rich. The government in most cases also resorts to ineffective techniques such as the formation of commissions of inquiry, corrupting institutions and other measures, all aimed at blocking prosecutions. Politics and corruption have also become one, meaning that any attempts to persecute and punish ills committed by others are crippled. The whole objective of this capture, says AfriCog, is to amass resources, manipulate systems, rig elections, all with the intention of maintaining power for the benefit of the few.
Kenya has got the most sophisticated legal and institutional infrastructure for fighting corruption in Africa. So the idea that we can reform, tinker an institution here and there to fix this problem, I think we accept it's over. And it's now a political problem.
All said and done, the report concludes that the war against corruption will only be won through a non-partisan and collaborative effort aimed at strengthening independent institutions in government. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Now, one of the main functions of a government, as you would hope, is to ensure that public funds are well utilized for the benefit of citizens.
In Kenya, however, these very funds continue to be misused and misappropriated as a corruption train wreaks havoc on the country's economy. This despite repeated promises of action to stem the bleeding.
NTV's Brenda Wanga reports the web of corruption seems to have looped in just about all arms of government.
First, the confession. Then, the numerous promises to fix this problem, the latest coming just early this week.
It will be difficult, it will be noisy, but it will happen. It will happen. It will happen because there's no going back, and this is an agenda I just want to be very, very, very clear about.
While the president's intentions to eradicate or significantly reduce the alarming levels of graft in the country as the key legacy of his administration are well documented, the actual work of achieving this remains a mirage.
They do not address the real problem. The real problem is the union of corruption and politics.
Indeed, the tentacles of the monster that is corruption spread wide and far, encompassing all arms of government.
Is a cabal of insiders who capture the state, and principally, not all of the state, principally the presidency, treasury, and the security. Because that's all you need to capture a state. Capture power, capture money, and capture intelligence.
The executive has seen its members, at least 10 cabinet secretaries, face investigations over their possible involvement in a number of scandals running into billions of shillings in the Aror and Kamwerere dams, as well as the Ruaraka land scandals.
Governor.
That same grid has moved to the counties, where governors have been arraigned in court to answer to misappropriation of county funds and abuse of power charges.
Order number 13.
Even the legislature that is expected to create laws that will protect the public funds have found themselves on the receiving end of public anger over the award of hefty allowances, despite the opposition from the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The courts haven't been spared this problem either. At the Apex Court, the Deputy Chief Justice is fighting to save her job and her reputation after she was charged on graft-related cases. 3 judges are also under investigation for abusing their powers while in office. When it isn't the bench, it is the officers in the judiciary system who have been accused of subverting the course of justice. Only last month, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions had to dismiss its officers for presenting to court a weekend case against an advocate accused of killing his son. The handling of Asa Nyakundi's case was just a case in point of how deep the corruption networks seem to have infiltrated the corridors of justice. The impunity that edges on corruption going as far into the bodies charged with fighting it. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations saw its 2 senior officers arrested for soliciting bribes from foreigners late last year, and surprisingly, their colleagues staged the daring rescue of the officers from a police station in Kabete, perhaps the perfect illustration of just how convoluted this war against corruption in the country has become. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
As a Kenyan, corruption hits home quite close. Now, what do you think the president should do to win the war against corruption? This is our Opinion Counts question tonight. What do you think the president should do to win the war against corruption?
Do share your thoughts with us by SMSing us on the number 20686. That is 20686. It's a toll-free number. You can also tweet us using the @NTV Kenya hashtag.
Now, as we look forward to your opinions, and we'll also have a guest in studio to give us a quick response
and I forgot,
that.
I'm sorry. The hashtag is Cartel Country.
Don't miss that, Cartel Country. And yes, to the next story. In just the past 3 months, the country has been treated to a myriad of cases of fake products ranging from foodstuffs, money, detergents, and now most recent, gold, to name just but a few.
This comes after a longer disturbing trail of counterfeit and contraband goods that make their way not only into the country, but into Wanjiku's home. This underscores the January 2016 statement by the then Chief Justice, Willy Mutunga, that Kenya is running a bandit economy.
Yes, you heard that right, a bandit economy. The situation exposes Kenya as a hub of fakes. And Jane Ngweri takes a real look at what is just a drop in the ocean of a bigger problem.
Tuesday, 19th March 2019. The Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, reported to the country that a whopping 2 billion shillings in fake US dollars had been found stashed in a private safe deposit box by a client at Barclays Bank, Queensway branch. When the news broke, it broke another chord of confidence in the country's integrity. Questions arose. Just how could that much fake currency find its way into such an esteemed financial institution and sit pretty all the while? How many other banks, trusted as they are, have also been infiltrated by different tentacles of impunity? How much in terms of fake currency could be circulating in the economy?
I still believe that we have those particular issues of cartels and the corruption.
Just under a month earlier, on 27th February, police officers from the Special Crimes Prevention Unit seized a cache of largely fake foreign cash amounting to 32 billion shillings in a residential house in Ruiru town. On 1st October 2018, another cache of 1 billion shillings of fake foreign currency was recovered in Westlands, Nairobi. In October 2016, 2 suspects were arrested at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport with 276 million euros in fake notes on transit to Dubai. A chain of events that continues to raise concerns whether Kenya could be turning into a base for transitional fake cash cartels. The fake business is not exclusive to the cash cartels. In the month of May, the Anti-Counterfeit Agency announced it had confiscated goods worth 125 million shillings in just 1 month, goods that were either fake or imported irregularly. Contraband and expired rice was recently nabbed in Nairobi's Kariobangi area. In the same month, DCI detectives arrested 15 suspects linked to a fake gold syndicate operating in the country. The suspects were nabbed in a rented house in Nairobi, where consignments bearing Ghanaian custom papers stuffed in metallic boxes whose weight had been altered using cement. The blade of fakes cut into the police service, with examples such as the 2013 incident of a police imposter Joshua Waiganjo, who is currently serving a jail term. Just a few of the many damning cases that could allow former CJ Willie Mutunga to pass for a prophet of sorts, having termed Kenya as a bandit economy. Jane Ngoiri, NTV.
A country of fakes. And as you heard from our first report, the current war on corruption is a cosmetic affair. And this goes by the report released today by the Africa Center for Open Governance. And we have the Executive Director, Gladwell Otieno. Thank you for joining us this evening. And we normally don't do this, but I'll give you the opportunity to also chime in on our opinion counts question tonight. Real quick, what do you think the president should do to end this corruption or graft scourge that we have here?
Well, it's impossible to give you a simple sort of, one-liner on that. I'm reminded of the history of revolutionary struggle, where one thinker and revolutionary fighter, Amilcar Cabral, said if the middle class and the petty bourgeoisie really want to support the revolution of the masses, they have to commit class suicide. So Uhuru Kenyatta would have to stop being Uhuru Kenyatta in order to win the war against corruption. He belongs to the Kenyatta family. He services the interests of the Kenyatta family. He would have to completely reinvent himself.
All right, that's the answer. Hopefully he's watching, and we'll take keen listen on the advice. And we will also be sampling what you'll be sending in. Keep them coming in through our NTV Kenya account, at Mark Masai, at Olive Burrows, hashtag Cartel Country. We'll be continuing this conversation with Gladwell Otieno in a bit. But first, another look at the situation we're in, the cartel country, with Olive.
Well, the leader of the majority in the National Assembly, Aden Duale, says there is no impeachment process against Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i within Parliament. He, however, warned politicians to stop politicizing the war against graft. Meanwhile, Machakos County Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua says all suspects named in the gold scam should be handed over to the United Arab Emirates for prosecution. He also defended Matiang'i, saying those attempting to implicate him are the ones robbing the country dry.
I really want to advise, beginning with the leader of minority, that we should not politicize. And they're the ones who said, let us not politicize the war against corruption. So again, even them, our free advice is they should not politicize and drag people's names, including that of Minister Matiang'i, to the ongoing gold scam investigation. Let us give space to the DCI and the Office of the DPP and EACC to function and to exercise their mandate as per the Constitution.
I ask my fellow politicians to leave Dr. Matiang'i alone and to know that mentioning him will not slow down the investigations against some of them. Any persons who are in the investigation and who are suspected to have swindled our friends of the UAE should not be taken by the DCI to be charged here. They should be repatriated immediately to Dubai to be tried, and when found guilty, jailed in one of their tough jails. At least we know that in Dubai, justice will be served speedily.
Do you agree with the governor? Don't forget the hashtag is Cartel Country. Tonight, Jared Otieno and two others accused in the ongoing fake gold case have been positively identified by foreign nationals as having conned them of millions of shillings. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations believes that the suspects are part of an influential transnational fake gold cartel with root source from DRC and Ghana. NTV's Seth Olale with the latest on the fake gold syndicate.
Barely 24 hours after Jared Kiasa Otieno pleaded not guilty to conspiring to defraud a foreign national 300 million shillings by alleging that he could sell him gold, the suspect faces yet another arrest and prosecution over different cases related to defrauding and suspected dealers millions of shillings. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has received complaints from a number of foreign nationals who say they have been conned millions of shillings by Jared Otieno and two other co-accused persons that are also implicated in the 300 million shillings fake gold case. The two are Philip Nation Aroko and Robert Paul Owiti, who both pleaded not guilty after they were charged with conspiracy to defraud Sounthorn Chandvanton, a director of Simwong Group Company, 300 million shillings. Detectives believe Jared, Aroko and Owiti colluded with foreign associates in form of fake gold marketers who were deployed in Ghana, Congo, neighboring Uganda and Kenya and booked in expensive hotels. Two Chad nationals by the name of Abuma Famous and Salim Ali Abubakar, together with a Congolese national by the name Albert Likole Lokunda, who were among the 15 suspects arrested with fake gold consignment by DCI detectives in a house along Kapute Road in Valley Arcade, are suspected to be part of the transnational fake gold cartel. The fake gold consignment had Ghanaian custom papers stuffed in metallic boxes with their weight altered using cement and mallets. Investigations so far have also established that the house where the 15 suspects were arrested was being used to lure innocent foreign gold buyers who were literally shown gold being smelted to make bars ready for export. Intelligence sources indicate that the cartel has been colluding with a number of members of parliament, rogue police officers, the judiciary, immigration staff at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and some bankers to defraud foreign unsuspecting clans millions of shillings. The large consignment of fake gold seized by the police in recent months are proof that Nairobi has turned into a base for transnational fake gold cartels. Jared Kiasa Otieno, Philip Nation Aroko and Robert Paul Owiti, together with other accused persons in the 300 million shillings fake gold case, will appear in court on Monday to hear the ruling on their bail application. Seth Olale, NTV.
The National Police Service and the National Police Service Commission have taken issue with a court order instructing them to pay degree-holding constables more than their non-degree-holding counterparts and be placed in the same job group as an inspector of police. The Inspector General of Police, Hilary Mutyambai, and Commission Chairperson Eliud Kinuthia state that while they respect judicial pronouncements, they take exception to the Friday ruling delivered by Justice Bairam Ongaya. The reasons they give for this are that primarily a constable cannot claim remuneration of an inspector by virtue of a university degree alone and without the requisite police training and experience. It is also their position that it would not only go against the principle of equal pay for equal work, it would only serve to distort the command structure. They also make the point that a failure to follow laid-down procedure in the attainment of said degrees has necessitated an audit to verify the authenticity of the degrees. They also make the case that the financial implications of the order are no small matter. They estimate that it would cost 928 million shillings more a year to pay the 1,774 graduate constables the same as inspectors, a payment they say for services they will not be rendering. We take a break, but when we come back, hopefully we hear from Gladwell Otieno why she thinks in order to fight corruption, President Uhuru Kenyatta will need to stop being Uhuru Kenyatta.
Oh, you've got me on my knees. Yeah, I'm begging, baby, please.
48 megapixel Oppo F11 Pro. Brilliant portrait in low light. Across the globe,
towns and cities are expanding faster than ever before. Urban centers power the world's economy, but often results in slums, rubbish dumps, traffic gridlock, and pollution. This month, heads of state and government, ministers, leaders,
state of the nation in terms of the fight against corruption, basically it being a cosmetic affair. We have the Executive Director, Gladio Lotieno, in studio. Earlier, we asked real quick on what you think the president should do. You said the president should stop being, Uhuru should stop being Uhuru. What did you mean by that?
Okay, I think it's important that we don't trivialize a very important subject.
Nothing
and one
trivial
that's,
about this, yes.
And one that in our report we've actually done a great deal of work on. And I wouldn't say that we simply dismissed the fight against corruption as cosmetic. What we were saying was that the logic of state capture dictates that the fight against corruption has very little chance of succeeding. So it's perfectly possible that you've got very sincere people, pursuing their job. But the logic of the system and what we've seen historically in terms of the lack of action on corruption in the end, even while we have a lot of motion and drama around the issue of corruption, despite, even if we were to impute best intentions to people, and one perhaps wants to do that.
So if there's lack of action, then saying that it is cosmetic, at least by your conclusion, is something that would be accurate.
There's a lot of action. There's a lot of motion. There's a lot of drama. People
So
are being arrested. People are being pulled up in front of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. People are being dragged to court. The question is, what will come of those actions? And historically, and in our report, we look at cases of corruption, taking 3 emblematic cases which we think exposes the nature of state capture under successive regimes. Moi with Goldenberg, Kibaki with Anglo Leasing, and Uhuru with Eurobond, although we could take any number of other scandals.
Okay. And you say it's been carried on regime after regime after regime.
And
but
very
you said
little
earlier,
action, real action in terms
Yes.
of conviction.
Yes.
Yes.
And you said earlier that if indeed he is to succeed in the fight against corruption, he should stop being Uhuru. What do you mean?
Well, it was perhaps a provocative way of phrasing that he is who he is, and he represents certain interests. And when you look at his actions in terms of using the office of the presidency to pursue the economic personal interests of his family and his family's companies, then that in itself is a massive conflict of interest. So if he wants really for people to believe that he is serious about the fight against corruption, he would have to stop weaponizing the fight against corruption in a political succession battle, and in essence stop being that which he has been his whole life,
Yes.
which is a representative of his family.
You've mentioned something in your report. In fact, this is a summary and excerpt, and you say the study concludes that the publicity-driven prosecutions are likely to deepen rather than undermine corruption as indictments and prosecutions get weaponized to partisan ends for the 2022 elections, which somewhat echoes or has been mentioned in other quarters that this particular drive against corruption is targeted at Ruto.
Okay, let me make clear, we're not holding brief for anybody, and we're not saying this to protect William Ruto. We don't think that William Ruto is any cleaner than Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay.
We think they're bound together. They came to power together, if you remember, with one imperative, which was to defeat the ICC, and that came with certain political necessities and costs. In order to do that, they had to buy loyalty, and they had to allow people to be able to go ahead and be corrupt. So the sort of corruption you're talking about, which is taking place everywhere, once you've got the go-ahead from the top, once the top signals that this is okay, as they say, a fish rots from the head, then it obviously takes place throughout the system. Okay. But let's remember that we've been warning that for decades now, that if corruption continues in Kenya and is allowed to continue, it becomes a culture, it becomes endemic, it becomes deep-seated. And this is the situation we have today. So we're not saying that William Ruto is a victim of anybody. We're saying that they're both equally corrupt, and that devalues, or I don't know about equally. I mean, yes. Uhuru Kenyatta has more opportunities through his position, but they're both enthusiastically corrupt.
Another part of your report, at least an excerpt, says what the government really needs is an anti-corruption strategy based on a proper diagnosis of the nature of the problem and the drivers of that problem. And the drivers of this problem are the elite who are driving the state capture agenda, or we can summarize it in one word: cartels. Can we pinpoint who the members of the cartel are, perhaps to approach this better?
Okay, now what we need to emphasize here is that we are not talking about a state which is captive to cartels. We're not talking about people who would otherwise want to do good but are unable to do so because they're held prisoner by you know, dark cartels. We're saying that there are relationships between politicians, between businessmen, many of them you've heard about, who run these shell companies that receive billions of dollars of taxpayers' money for nothing in particular. Mm-hmm. And we're saying that this is collusion between these parties in order to capture power and to keep power and to gain great wealth through corruption. So it's not a question of somebody wanting to do good. One of the most stark conclusions of the report is that we're telling Kenyans to depart from the notion of a government which is actually interested in their welfare.
Okay.
To the extent that, I mean, it's interested to the extent of, obviously, that it has to demonstrate some sort of performance, but that is not the driving force.
Okay. There's another part here that also directs perhaps some indictment or blame for the situation that we are in. But you will clarify this, and I believe this is the 5th page of the same, and it says, on that view, even political rivals are allies who coexist uneasily, not principally for the purpose of exercising the functions of a state in the abstract, but primarily and concretely for extracting resources for personal gain. Is this at the opposition or the purported, supposed opposition that we have?
Well, I would say that I think most Kenyans would agree that corruption is something which unites most politicians, yeah? And so we wouldn't say that one side is clean and the other is not. One side has the opportunity since it's in power, and the other doesn't since it's not in power. What
one might say with the handshake it probably is.
Well, I really wouldn't want to go that far. This is more of an effort to preserve power and also to secure the succession, because one of the challenges of state capture is keeping corruption transitioning through different governments. And there's an unspoken agreement that, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I won't pursue you, I won't prosecute you. Remember, we did not prosecute President Moi. Yes. We continued, and just the same with Kibaki. Nobody was prosecuted for Anglo leasing. That continued. So there's an unspoken bargain amongst the political class about how to keep power and how far they can go in terms of, trying to respond to the public desire. Yes. For something to be done about corruption while actually doing nothing about it.
How much responsibility of this can be thrown to the Kenyan in terms of fighting corruption, because there's what people call petty corruption, and in another line here it says, in high impunity corrupt environments, many voters prefer the corrupt politician from their in-group than the honest politician from the out-group, an institutionalized form of adverse selection. So there is a degree of blame directed to the Kenyan who vote in these political elite that are corrupt.
I think something very important that we're saying is that Kenyans need to stop blaming themselves for corruption. I mean, those Kenyans who are being subject to coercive requests or demands for bribes by policemen, you cannot blame those Kenyans if they give bribes to the police. Obviously, if they're trying to escape accountability and bribing the police, that's another matter. But we want to reject this notion that everybody's corrupt and everybody's involved in it and everybody's guilty, therefore nobody's guilty. Yes. Obviously, people who set out to bribe, to avoid accountability for their actions are just as much at fault. But if you're an ordinary citizen and you're being subjected to a demand for a bribe by a policeman and you don't have the power to resist, you're not you're not corrupt, you're a victim.
Okay, and in the report, you do admit it's not an optimistic report. It is quite a grim picture. In fact, Kenyans protested when our country was described, for lack of a better word, as a shithole. And some might say as well, in terms of corruption, we are actually deep in that pit. Is there any hope that perhaps even for this regime that he would leave a legacy of successfully fighting corruption?
I think one of the conclusions that we have to draw, and we drew today at our event, is that the days of doing the reforms, which we in civil society have also been claiming and militating for over the years. We've asked for laws to be strengthened. We've asked for institutions to be founded and strengthened. We've asked for various measures to be taken. We fought for a new constitution, which had very many provisions, which were aimed at stopping corruption. What we're saying is that sort of reform it's at an end. It has no future.
All right, this interview is at an end, but the conversation continues. Gladu Otieno from Africog, thank you very much for your contribution, and we will continue to digest this report that's been out and get your responses as you've been following this conversation. Over to Olive Burrows in a bit.
Thank you.
Well, the question we had for you is, what should the president do? What do you think the president should do to win the war against corruption? Basically, what would you do were you in his shoes? Harrison Olwoch says he should visit Singapore for a fight corruption exchange program and give EACC teeth to chew guilty people. Meanwhile, we need a special ethics court with fast prosecutorial abilities. We have Kevin, who says the president should sack all his advisors, dissolve cabinet, and withdraw all 1,000 shilling notes from the economy. And we also have Kadrima Mwongera, who says who agrees with Kevin, and he says he should sack those adversely mentioned in the scandals. The court processes can follow later. And finally, just for now, Gerald says the president has to choose between pleasing the politicians or cartels or standing with the country. More coming up after this break.
Oh, you've got me on my knees. Yeah, I'm begging, baby, please.
48 megapixel Oppo F11 Pro. Brilliant portrait in low light.
Karibu Betin.
Special Committee to oversee operations and come up with a revival plan for the struggling Mumias Sugar Company. Oparanya says the Mumias Sugar management has totally failed to bring back life to the once vibrant mill and that it is the right time for his intervention. The company management, on the other hand, has dismissed his move and failed to attend a meeting convened by the governor at the company premises. Zekas Masame with the story.
It is now 6 years since normal operations at the giant Mumias Sugar Company in Kakamega County were halted due to inadequacy of raw material. But the latest move by the company's management to lease part of its assets has seemingly not gone down well with Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya. He has come up with a strategy that he says will soon salvage Mumias Sugar Company.
Waangalie hiyo assets zingine za kampuni ziko intact. Ya mwisho waje na mpango tunaweza kutumia au kufuata kama county government kurevive hii kampuni ya Mumias Sugar.
I was keen to know why Oparanya hurriedly took this step, yet he was the co-chair of a task force formed by President Uhuru Kenyatta on sugar matters.
Unfortunately, we have not presented the report because the president has been busy with other schedules, and we are likely to do that in the near future within the next 2 weeks. But what prompted me to come here is when I saw that the company board of directors had advertised to lease properties of this company, which I thought it was defeating our strategy to revive this company.
But Mumias Sugar acting CEO Isaac Shienda will hear none of Oparanya's suggestions, accusing the governor of overstepping his authority.
Mimi naona hayo ni mapendekezo ama resolutions ambazo wao wamepitisha, na mimi siwezi kushirikiana na resolutions ambazo watu wameamua bila kuzingatia sheria. Kama mtu anataka kubadilisha usimamizi wa kampuni, kuna sheria ambayo ni lazima ifuatwe, na kwa hii hali sidhani kama wamefuata sheria yoyote.
2 days ago, the governor had announced a forceful takeover of Mumias Sugar Company, citing that the current management was doing more harm than good to the factory.
Alikuwa na mkutano mwingine juma lililopita hapa, ambapo alikuja na watu ambao sisi watu wajui, na akasema kwamba angependa kuchukua usimamizi wa Mumias Sugar Company. Niliona kwamba ni vigumu mimi na wenzangu kama management staff kuwa na yeye mkutano bila kuwasiliana na washikadau wengine.
Well, all eyes are now set to see whether Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya will succeed in getting an alternative of reviving the giant Mumias Sugar Company. On the other hand, the management is saying it won't take any of his suggestions. Zakis Masame, NTV, Kakamega.
The Parliamentary Budget Office is of the opinion that 2019 is panning out to be a much tougher year economically for Kenyans and states that the government is unlikely to achieve its growth target. Such are the headwinds facing the economy, according to the office, that it believes growth this year will be lower than the projected 5.6%. Alex Mwangi reports.
The 2019-2020 budget is pegged on an economic growth projection of 6.2% this year, just slightly shy of the 6.3% growth achieved last year. But according to the Parliamentary Budget Office, it is likely to be much lower on account of these factors. The PBO says that inflation is likely to go up on account of food and water scarcity occasioned by the apparent poor performance of the March to May long rain season. It further notes that the pace of implementation of infrastructure projects is too slow, putting in jeopardy the effectiveness of the Big Four agenda. Two of the Big Four's pillars, agriculture and health, are actually devolved functions of government, but there is lack of a clear collaborative framework between the national and county governments. The performance of the economy this year is likely to be adversely affected by the fact that as at the end of the third quarter of the government's current financial year, only 54% of development funds had been disbursed. This puts the government in a precarious situation, where on the one hand, revenue growth is constrained and on the other, it is sluggishly utilizing the development funds at its disposal. The PBO gives a dim forecast for growth in credit to the private sector. It states that the government's debt strategy for the next financial year is more inclined towards domestic borrowing, and as such, Growth in credit to the private sector may continue to decline in 2019 from the 2.4% growth in 2018, since the government is likely to crowd out the private sector as creditors deem it as a less risky borrower. The Parliamentary Budget Office states that despite the projected 2.3% reduction in the total budget from 3.15 trillion shillings in the current financial year to 3.08 trillion shillings in the next financial year, there is concern that its actual implementation may adjust expenditure upwards. On the manufacturing front, the PBO has referred to the Purchasing Managers Index, which is an indicator of manufacturing activities in the private sector, pointing out that it has been on the decline since December 2018, indicating a slowdown in performance of activity in the sector. A weak global economic outlook also carries some risks for the Kenyan economy. The scathing assessment by the office provides a wake-up call for technocrats in government to put in place measures to address the deceleration of economic performance, or else Kenyans will encounter rougher waters financially speaking, further down the river. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Let's take it home a bit literally. The government has officially unveiled the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, a key institution geared at making the affordable housing program a success. The new institution is expected to provide long-term loans to primary mortgage lenders in order to make mortgage more affordable to low-income earners.
For a long time, housing finance providers in Kenya have been restricted to offering mortgages with short prepayment periods because of lack of long-term funds. As a result, a majority of low-income earners in urban areas have been locked out of the country's mortgage market, a gap that the government is now looking to bridge with the launch of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company.
The Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company will be expected to provide fixed-rate, long-term, low-interest funding to primary mortgage lenders, which would be passed on to home buyers.
The non-deposit taking institution, which is 80% owned by private sector players including banks, SACCOs and microfinance institutions, and 20% by the government, will start operations with an initial capital base of 35 billion shillings and will source loans from big investors and multilateral lenders before later issuing long-term bonds. Currently, financial institutions require a borrower to have a monthly income of about 200,000 shillings before underwriting a 2 million shillings loan at the current maximum allowable interest rates of 13% over a repayment period of 3 years. But if the repayment period is extended to 15 years, the income eligibility threshold drops to just 76,000 shillings.
Tunataka kuhakikisha kwamba hii kazi ya ujenzi wa manyumba ambaye mwananchi anaweza pia kuishi na kwa bei nafuu. Na nyinyi sasa ndio trial, kwa sababu hii kiisha vizuri ndio tunataka iwe example ya zile tutajenga katika sehemu zingine za Nairobi, Mombasa.
As of December 2016, Kenya's total mortgage loan book stood at about 24,000, having grown by a paltry 6,000 over the previous 5 years. But with the launch of the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company, it is expected that banks and SACCOs will issue an additional 50,000 mortgages in the next 5 years. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business, Nairobi.
The Kenya Bureau of Standards, that's KEBS, maintains it has not banned the importation of all second-hand motor vehicle spare parts and that due process was followed before the ban. KEBS says it is just simply trying to ensure that used spare parts are suitable to use as per the Kenya Standard on Motor Vehicle Code of Practice. In a statement to newsrooms, the standards body insists that the ban only applies to tires, tubes, ball joints, tie rod ends, rack ends, brake hose pipes, brake and clutch cables, bearings, rubber bushes, oil seals, spark plugs, filters, air cleaner elements, clutch plates, pressure plates, release bearings, brake pads, and this is all to ensure road safety. From ensuring road safety, for me to hit the road. I'm done. Good night.
Oh, you've got me on my knees. Yeah, I'm begging, baby, please.
48 megapixel Oppo F11 Pro.
represents the hopes, dreams and aspirations of children, families and their communities. But in Busia County, the picture of infrastructure at Nabutsui Primary School is shocking.
The school has mud-walled structures which are dilapidated, classrooms are insufficient and the ones available have no doors. Rose Wangoi reports.
Nabutsui Primary School in Busia County is in a dilapidated state. Iron sheets on the rooms of the classrooms and sanitation have wasted away, while the walls are also in a poor state. The picture of infrastructure in this public school is shocking. Pupils learn under difficult conditions, while teachers struggle to create order where chaos reigns. In this classroom, pupils squeeze and shove trying to learn while breathing in a dusty, crowded classroom. Pupils sit on the floor stones and place books on their laps when they're writing. They have no desks. Classrooms are insufficient and the ones available have no doors.
Staff room hatuna. Naona sasa wakati wanapumzika mwalimu hana kipindi. Huwa tunakaa kwa ile baranda hapo. Ndio tunakaa sasa wakati tunatayarisha masomo ya kwenda darasa lingine tunakaa tu hapo. Pia tena mvua ikinyesha tunachangamana na watoto.
At times, teachers combine 2 or more classes and teach the pupils in one classroom.
Na mvua ikija, sasa tunawachanganya pamoja. Hasa inamaanisha na madarasa mengine hakuna masomo yanaendelea.
The classrooms are frail to the point of shaking. The losing gaping mud walls make the place unfit for human habitation.
Wakati wote inaweza anguka. Na hiyo ni hatari kwa watoto. Umeona jinsi yalivyo. Hata tunajaribu kuingiza udongo kuboma ili izuie. Na unafundisha na watoto wengine wakipita nje wanachungulia huko ndani. Sasa hapo hakuna kuendelea kwa masomo.
The journey is not easier for the teachers who have to nurture the tender dreams.
Hatuna fence. Unaona vile watu wanapita tu. Sasa hatujui hata ni mtu mbaya ama nani, hiyo wanapita tu.
Every child has a right to quality and affordable education, but this will remain a pipe dream if learners are made to study in such harsh conditions. Rozongoi, NTV.
Here's another sad story. For 32 years, Isaiah Ochanda has been seeking compensation for an injury that he sustained while on duty in the military.
After a lengthy court battle, he received compensation in 2011, which he's yet to receive. He reads a scandal in the red tape that involves highly ranked officers.
Charity Mwangi will be giving us a detail on this. Actually fits into the same theme that we've been having, the cartel country, because it seems that people are sabotaging his attempts at getting his compensation that he rightfully deserves. It's been a lifetime. I mean, 32 years that he's been waiting on this, and he should definitely get this.
Yeah. All right, that will come up right after the break.
promised to bring you for 32 years, Mr. Ochanda has been seeking compensation for an injury that he sustained while on duty in the military.
After a lengthy legal battle, he received compensation in 2012, which he's yet to receive. He reads a scandal in the red tape that involves highly ranked officers.
Charity Mwangi brings us this man's story.
In 1985, Isaiah Ochanda was a talented military man. Aside from his ability in combat, he was also the instructor for the military combat sports team until May 1987 when tragedy struck.
This accident I got from there when I was coaching the national team that was going for All Africa Games. One of my students was going to fall down. Then when I rushed to help him, I found myself in the hospital. Yes. From the hospital I was diagnosed that I'm tetraplegic. I was paralyzed from the neck downwards. And I thought they were going to give me my juice as because they retired me on a medical ground. This did not happen. I waited for almost going to a year. And you know the law. If you cannot claim your dues within 1 year, then it is written off.
This marked the start of a nightmare that would have him in and out of court, seeking compensation that was due to him but being withheld by unknown military personnel.
I've tried my best. I've communicated everything that court needs. I've gone through. But the Ministry of Defense is as if they don't want to pay me.
In 2012, Lady Justice Kalpana Rawal would order his full compensation in a ruling that sparked hope for Ochanda and his family.
The court gave me 6.5 million for disability and 1 million for suffering. So it's a total of 7.5. Now 7.5, then I was given for 10 years.
They are yet to receive the amount in full. Instead, the military keeps reaching out to them for a negotiation that to them is suspicious.
And I'm sure they took the money. They went, because when the Attorney General gives you permission, you will go and withdraw money and pay.
His wife, Elizabeth Ochanda, recounts their early, happy married life, which was short-lived. Her handsome, strong husband, standing at a height of 5'7" and weighing 74 kilograms, was reduced to an invalid.
Suppose he did not get injured. He was a very active man. He was ever outside. When he comes from outside, he's been given a lot of allowance, okay? And he was focused. Where will we go after retiring? I cannot afford house rent. That's my worry now.
Ochanda appeals to the Commander-in-Chief to intervene, if only to aid his family that continues to struggle financially.
I don't earn. The way I am, even if you bring me tea here and put it here, if you cannot bring it next to my mouth, near to my mouth, what will I do?
Isaiah Ochanda says that he does not regret his service to the government. However, he is disappointed in the kind of treatment that he continues to receive from his colleagues in the military after having sacrificed his youthful years. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Niaje. Want to invest in a biashara that will take your hustle to the next level?
Gor Mahia and FC Leopards has previously made headlines for all the wrong reasons. The latest edition on Sunday has created some beautiful family reunions off the pitch. Ida Waringa with this heartwarming story of missing children who reunited with their families thanks to the two teams.
It was an inspiring yet curious sight.
With thousands of loyal Mashameji Derby fans at the Moi International Sports Complex Kasarani anticipating the usual routine before kickoff, the players did it a bit differently this time round. Instead of the usual child mascots, Kenyan Premier League champions Gor Mahia and hosts AFC Leopards players walked onto the pitch holding huge placards bearing the faces and names of 22 missing children from different parts of Nairobi. The initiative used the hashtag Wapi Watoto Wetu, organized by the NGO Missing Child Kenya in conjunction with Express DDB Kenya.
I was doing some research on football for another campaign altogether. Do the KPL players come out with kids? And he said, no, not always. So I was like, okay. And it actually started off as a joke, and I was like, so the children are missing in the match.
While using huge sporting events to promote various initiatives is a common scene in different European leagues, it was a first in Kenya.
Why now and why the Mashemeji Derby?
It's a signature event for the league, and AFC and Gor Mahia being the mostly supported clubs, we thought it's going to have a bigger impact.
As a result, 3 children were found within 72 hours after the match.
For the match, we submitted 22 posters because we wanted each player to be able to carry a case that we can put to the public as an appeal. And out of this, now currently as we speak, 3 children have been found.
When a child goes missing, an alert is made by the NGO, and in the same way, when a child is found, an alert is also created. 13-year-old Chantel Osebe's alert was posted at 1:35 a.m. on Monday 20th May, while 11-year-old Prudence Kavugui's was posted at 7 p.m. later that day. 16-year-old Eva Mariceres came on Tuesday morning.
The person who called me, he told me that Eva had been with them from the 7th of May, and they had made a report at Ngong police station, though I don't know why the police had not circulated that the OB number at Hadi, that the girl was missing so that we can be reconnected.
Despite the traction received from the derby, huge challenges still exist in regards to recovery of missing children in the country.
There is no national database that holds all the information about missing children.
The players involved in the program were happy to voice their joy at some of the children being found.
Naweza ichukulia kama maybe ni good omen that ili happen mile kadi nilikuwa ile bana nilikuwa nimebeba huyo mtoto ili aliafukupatikana na wazazi wake, so naweza sema ni feeling poor.
KPL CEO Jack Oguda pledged that there will indeed be much more of such initiatives in the future, while the families hope that the joint programs can go a long way in reuniting them with their loved ones.
It is very encouraging because out of that, when you have a gathering of people somewhere and they go to different corners of the country, maybe someone will come out of that knowing there's a child.
The power of sport felt on and off the pitch.
With the International Day of Missing Children fast approaching, it's a beautiful thing that sport, and more specifically football, can play its part in some form of social justice. For NTV, I'm Ida Warenga.
Indeed, the power of the beautiful game that is. Moving on, Gor Mahia FC have won the Kenyan Premier League title for a record-breaking 18th time after Bandari FC drew with Mathare United, to mean that it's mathematically impossible for the second-placed Dockers to catch up with Gor Mahia. Kogalo was surprisingly held 1-1 by Vihiga United, but that won't matter to their fans following a tough transition season for the league.
Gor Mahia defended their Kenyan Premier League title for the 3rd year in succession, despite a 1-1 draw against Vihiga United at the Kenyatta Stadium. The result in Machakos, coupled with Bandari's draw against Mathare, meant Gor's lead at the top of the table was unassailable. Hassan Oktay's Chargers got off the block from the kickoff, scoring in the 13th minute through Charles Momanye. However, Vihiga surprised Gor in the 56th minute as Amos Kigade headed home the equaliser against a run of play to level scores. Kogalo will now keep the trophy for good, having won it 3 times in a row. Earlier, visiting Bandari FC held Mathare United to a goalless draw at the Kasarani Stadium. The Docksmen are comfortably in second place with 62 points, while sixth place Mathare could be overtaken by Tusker on Thursday should the Brewers win their clash against Zoo Kericho. In other results, Kariobangi Sharks rallied from 2 goals down to draw 3-3 with Olinsi Stars. Chemilo Sugar boosted their hopes of survival after battling Sofapaka to a goalless draw at the Kenyatta Stadium. KCB beat Nzoia Sugar 1-0. Sony Sugar surprised Kakamega Homeboys 2-1. And Western Steamer also won 2-1 against Posta Rangers. Relegated Mount Kenya United host AFC Leopards in Machakos, while Tusker welcomes Zoo FC at Ruaraka.
And the team manager of Kenya's athletics team at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, Michael Rotich, has been banned for 10 years with immediate effect from any athletics-related activities, besides being fined 1.9 million shillings. The IAAF Ethics Board found the retired major in the Kenyan Defence Forces, Rotich, culpable of having breached its rules. The panel detailed that Rotich was found guilty of having agreed to provide advance notice of drugs tests to athletes and coaches in exchange for money, noting that Rotich knew when doing so, it would allow athletes to flush banned substances from their systems in order to circumnavigate doping tests. Rotich was suspended in August 2016 by IAAF and kicked out from the Rio Olympic Games after allegations arose from an article entitled "Rio Olympics Hit by New Doping Scandal" and accompanying new video footage, both which were published by Sunday Times. Meanwhile, Kenyan-born Bahraini Eunice Jepkurui Kirwa, who won silver in women's marathon in Rio, was suspended by the IAAF's Athletes Integrity Unit, that is AIU, after failing a dope test. 34-year-old Kirwa, who also claimed bronze for Bahrain at the 2015 World Championships in Beijing, China, becomes the second athlete from the Middle East country. And the absence of perennial rivals and powerhouse Egypt was not a boost for the Malkia Strikers' qualification to the Africa Games, but just gave a change in opposition served by hosts Uganda during the Zone 5 qualifiers in Kampala. Those were the words of Malkia Strikers coach Japhet Munala upon the team's return from a successful outing where Kenya bagged the sole ticket to the Africa Games. The African Queens recorded a 100% record in the qualifiers to emerge champions, beating hosts Uganda in straight sets of 25-20, 25-17 and 25-16 for the change to go defend their Africa Games title. And the inaugural Kenya Academy of Sports Conference came to a close this afternoon, with delegates promising to follow up on proposals made at the three-day workshop. Local and international stakeholders discussed challenges in the local sporting industry, along with challenging federations to rely less on government funding and look at the private sector. The Kenya Chamber of Commerce attended the final day of the conference, which was a symbolic support for the sports industry from the private business sector. It is hoped from this conference that the devolution of sports grows even further in the 47 counties.
Conference without the corporate institutions coming in to support us. And I think going forward, if we are going to rely only on the exchequer, it is going to be very difficult because the government will never be able to do everything for the whole country. So we need partners, we need also federations, we need individuals, we need corporates to come and partner with sports federations so that we can be able to drive sports in a big way in this country.
It has been a great success, a very great success, judging by the number of participants that have come, and the conference has lived up to its expectations of being a truly international conference. We have a lot of people. What excites me most is the number of Kenyans who have come. We have people represented from the counties. We have people represented from the sports federations. We have people represented from the corporate sector, and international organizations like UNICEF, UNESCO, GIZ.
That's the sport. We play again tomorrow. Back to Mark and Olive.
We asked you what you think the president should do to win the war against corruption. We have Steve J, who says establish a new blueprint, a big one agenda, corruption and work on it. Hashtag Cartel Country, hashtag NTV tonight.
Big one agenda like that. James Gedoko, you say delinking the war from politics and having no sacred cows to the judiciary and investigative agencies must work in sync to prosecute and convict those found culpable.
We also have Kimathi Njebi, who says, how many convicted criminals has he appointed to government? Even the ones leading the war against corruption have pending court orders hanging over them.
And this next one with Kabi Kabs, you say the president should take his place and order for the arrest of all cartels, corrupt politicians and government officials. Follow up on the lifestyle audits, as he had said. Basically, he should keep his word.
And Galen Arab Salat puts it this way: resign. Kwani ikonini.
Yes, and I'll let you take that one as well with Messi.
Well, Messi says there's a proverb in Nigeria: you cannot run and scratch your ass at the same time. Simply put, you cannot be in government and do business with the same government at the same time. Yes, and I think that's the same point the president made during the multi-sectoral forum on corruption.
All right, and with that, we end NTV tonight. Thank you for driving the conversation online, hashtag Cartel Country, and a focus definitely will continue on this and many more issues that are developing around the country. My name is Mark Masai. Have yourself a good night.
My name is Olive Burrows. Our sign language interpreter has been David Agundoa.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا
الله. This is NTV.
Karibuni to watch and win hapa NTV. And guess what? This is the only station where you get to watch and win. My name is Jeroge.
And my name is Tracy Wanjiru. Thank you so much for joining us. And every single day we have been giving away shopping vouchers with 2,500 Kenya shillings. And on Friday, we are just now a day away. We are giving away 2 brand new TVs, 40-inch TV.
Get TV! Kenene! Get 40-inch.
Exactly. And also shopping vouchers on that day.
Oh yes, nakumbuka kila Monday baada ya kupatiana shopping voucher tunapatiana safari za kinyumbani. Watu waende Elementaita, watu waende kunaitwa Mara na pahali pengine na huko Coastal Regions. And guess what? Si hapo tu. Kuna the grand prize, safari kubwa zaidi ya yote, all the way international to Dubs. Si Dubeli, si Duboine, nasema Dubai. Burj Khalifa hapo, courtesy of Bonfire Adventures.
Exactly. So today we are giving away 4 shopping vouchers worth 2,500 Kenya shillings. Let's find our first winner.
Simply look out for questions every hour on what you have watched. The questions will be as easy as ABC.
Alafu unachukua simu yako, reply 1 or 2 ukianza na word win to 20686. SMS hailipishwi. Endelea kuwatch ungoje kushinda.
If you are the lucky winner, you will receive a call from 0719038866.
Kumbuka, sheria na masharti inafuatiliwa.
Congratulations to all our winners, and let me tell you, I get very, very happy to hear the likes of Masharia enjoy and have a good time because, you know, we've awarded them with gifts, and we have so many gifts for you. We have shopping vouchers with 2,500 Kenya shillings. We have 2 big, very, very big TVs for you. And like Jorge would say, TV, Kenene, 40-inch. Yes, and that could be yours as well. And don't forget the grand prize. Yes, Jorge.
Oh yes, nakwambia grand prize ni safari za baribari international all the way to Dubse. Na si Dubai, Aduagai, Dubai, pale Burj Khalifa.
And remember, we are now gearing closer and closer to the end of the show, of course, where we give the grand prize. Thank you so much for watching us here on NTV. This is Watch and Win from myself, Tracy Wanjiru.
Na mimi ni Njoroge.
We say goodbye.
Bye.